Welcome to Ever Living Podcast, where we share the voices and stories of those who work and pray to protect life here in New England and beyond. We are your life-loving hosts, Cindy
and Jessica.
And welcome to Ever Living, everybody.
Welcome back.
How are you, Jessica?
I'm good. I've been very busy, just doing a lot of outreach on campus with students. So I was at the College of the Holy Cross yesterday doing a display, and then went from there to Rhode Island. We did a protest of CVS headquarters because CVS, they distribute the abortion pills. So we were protesting them yesterday. So yeah, it's been a busy week. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Did you see the FDA is going to review the abortion pill? I saw that in the news.
Okay. I don't know if I honestly actually don't know if I read. Was that today?
Yeah, maybe today. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. I'll have to look into that. That's great.
Stay tuned for that. Well, Jessica, what are you doing on October 16th?
I'm going to a great banquet.
Woo-hoo! I'm also going to a great banquet. Let's go to that website. It's nhrtl.org/banquet2025. And this is our annual benefit banquet for New Hampshire-right-to-life. This year, the theme is Sheltering Wings, Valiant Hearts, Protecting Life. And our keynote speaker is Darlene Pawlik, a national pro-life speaker and former vice president of Save the One. She was also a board member on New Hampshire-right-to-life for 20 years. And so we're very happy that she's joining us today. And everyone, you can go to this website and buy these tickets. You can buy a table for 10. You can buy a table, your own seat. You can be a corporate sponsor of our banquet. It's going to be wonderful, a wonderful time. So check that out. Okay, so let's welcome Darlene Pawlik to our podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Jessica and Cindy. I really appreciate it. It's
great.
Good to see you.
You too.
See you.
So, what? Tell us about yourself, Darlene. What is your life story?
My life story. So I grew up on the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and I was born in Massachusetts, but immediately brought over the border to Atkinson, and I grew up there for a little while, and then we moved almost every year. It was a very tumultuous time. There was abuse on both sides of my family. My conception was actually by rape. My 15-year-old mom was raped, and he apologized, and he was so just very charming. They used to call him Tricky Dicky because he could trick anybody into anything. And so she ended up actually marrying him. And when she was pregnant with her second child, after a series of more rapes, she just said, "Mom, if you don't get me out of here, I'm going to kill myself." And so that was my early childhood. And I grew up bouncing around. My mom did get married, and we had this sort of normal life for just a little while. I had cousins. I spent the night, and it was normal. Nobody was abusing anybody. Nobody was beating anybody up. Nobody was shut in closets or anything like that. And I learned that you can have a normal kind of life. But on weekends, my mom still sent us back to my paternal grandmother's house where my biological father had access to us. And so we were abused very frequently from toddlerhood on. And so I would shut down and just be quiet. And that was a taught thing. My grandmother actually taught us to be quiet. One time, my sister and I had been just ravished, and my grandmother gave us a bath. My mom was on her way, and she spoke in my ear, and she said, "Don't you say a word." And so I didn't speak for 3 days. My mom said, "You didn't talk for 3 days," and I didn't know what to do or what to think. But it wasn't the kind of education that we have now. That was a long time ago. So So those are the kinds of circumstances that I came up with. And as you can imagine, coming into my teen years, I became quite eruptive. Uh, I was the kid you would never let your kids hang around, inciting violence, breaking into little old ladies' houses, stealing their money, and doing drugs and alcohol and out at night. And a really handsome man came to my neighborhood. At least I thought so at the time. Um, he he seemed to be friendly with everybody. I had no idea that I was being targeted. And as the weeks drew on through the summer of my 13th year, my uncle had molested me. So from the other side of the family. So I was getting it from both sides of the family now. And I just was full of rage and turmoil. And this guy seemed really like jovial and friendly and with everybody in the neighborhood. What's your favorite TV show and what do you like to watch and what do you like to do? And after a while, I started getting in his car because it's New England and it got cold. And pretty soon I was in his bed. And it wasn't long after that that he started to talk to me about, well, if you sleep with my friends and you have sex with my friends, I could get you the money that you want for the things you need. You don't have gloves, you don't have boots, which was true. I didn't have those things because my mom was a single mom of, 3 kids by that time, and we were living in a 3-story tenement in Haverhill. And I said, no, I don't need that stuff. That's fine. I don't need that. But on my 14th birthday, my mom came home from running some errands. And I said, well, it's my birthday. And you remember what I just said about how volatile I was and how much trouble I caused skipping school and, drinking at my babysitting job next door or whatever. And so she was mad at me, like really mad. But to me, it was just another day and it was my birthday. And I thought everybody got celebrated on their birthday. And I told her it was my birthday. She threw 2 crumpled up dollar bills on the table and said, here, and walked past me. And I was so mad. I was so mad that I called that man. I said, I'm ready. Pick me up in an hour. And I walked down the street to the store that was on the corner, and the lights were behind me, but in front of me was very similar to today. It was gray and dark and rainy. The only difference is it was the middle of winter. Slush was coming up over my ankles, and it was cold. But I stood there thinking, can anybody see me? Can anyone even see me? I don't know. He sloshed around the corner and I got in the car, and he sold me that day, and he sold me hundreds and hundreds more times. And it was often very brutal. And I was sneaking out in the middle of the night, and there was very little money to be exchanged, just enough to keep me numb with drugs and alcohol. And then after a while, I had a few more pimps and a few more experiences. And I ended up at 17 moving into an apartment that a man had rented for me. He'd had other girls in the past, and he said that if I got pregnant, I'd have to have an abortion. And I'm like, well, I've been passed around now for 4 years. I'm not going to get pregnant. It's fine. Okay. I was just a kid, I was not just a kid. I was an abused kid, and abused kids have a kind of retarded view. We're not able to think of repercussions and what's going to happen in the future, the whole planning and future consequences kind of thing, that it gets shut off somewhere in the amygdala, and we get all in our emotions, and so I moved in with him, and of course I got pregnant. Short order, I got pregnant. And he told me I had to have an abortion. And I was devastated, and I cried my heart out, wailing and crying in an apartment building with lots of other apartments, and no one checked on me. No one. And I thought, no one can even hear me. No one can see me. No one can hear me. I'm all alone. And then I had a dream. I had a dream of the abortion procedure in living color from the perspective of the womb. And I had left school in the 7th grade. I had no knowledge of this biology. All I knew was there was a baby. I knew there was a baby. And I saw little body parts. And I woke up screaming, God, if you're real, I need you. I need you to help me. I need you to help me. I can't do this. I'm going to die. He's going to kill me because he told me he would kill me if I didn't have an abortion. So I remembered a social worker who'd been my key tracker when I was a runaway. And I called her, and she found a home for unwed mothers. And that was when I realized that there were people like you, absolute heroes, opening your hearts and your minds, opening your wallets to girls like me that no one can see and no one can hear. Because you have the love of God and the love of people in your hearts. You are my heroes, Jessica and Cindy. You are my heroes. And I'll never, ever, ever, ever be able to thank you enough for all that you do for the right to life.
Well, that's our episode. Wow.
Thank you so much, Darlene, for sharing your story. I've heard your story before, but hearing it again, it hit so much as, my emotion so much as the last time I heard it. So
it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. And of course there's a lot more to it, but I think the key takeaway here is that there are lots and lots of girls like me out there who are being abused. Of course, there are boys too that are being abused, but we're talking today about how abuse and abortion are tied together. My abusers would have opted for abortion. As a matter of fact, as I said, my situation was that he said that he would kill me, and I was sold to him by a pimp that had beat me up numerous times. So there was no question in my mind that he would have had me killed had I not been able to escape. And the way that I escaped, I will share at the banquet. I'm not going to share all those kinds of details now, but right now I just wanted to talk about the fact that he was very insistent that I have an abortion, and he had forced other girls to have abortions in the past. He told me about numerous abortions, one of which happened in the bathroom of his business. And this little baby was 16 weeks old, born in a toilet, and died there. And so I knew without a doubt that he would kill me, and I had to escape, and that was going to be the only way. And when I found out that there were people like you, people who would genuinely care about another person that they did not know, someone as messed up, really, really messed up as me. I mean, I was messed up. Even at the home for unwed mothers, we were all vomiting. And everybody's fighting over who's going to clean the bathroom because we're all vomiting, and nobody wants to clean the bathroom because it's going to make us vomit. So it was this vicious cycle. But Marilyn, and I'm so grateful to Marilyn and her family. Her daughters are now running the home for unwed mothers that she established. And she took me in, and I was one of her first girls. She just brought us into her home. I mean, what a witness is that? To know that there are people out there who care so much that they would bring in a broken, ravished girl. And I know I wasn't the only one. There were 4 of us. She brought in 4 girls into her home and gave us a place to stay and helped us to get services, helped us to get to church. She took us on retreats. The witness of that pro-life woman stayed with me so strongly. I could never, ever thank her and her family enough. And I'm so grateful today that I'm able to support them, thankfully, because my life completely turned around. I used to say that I was like a water skier holding on. And if I crashed, I was going to hit really hard. So I'm holding on. And my life is completely so different than it would have been. And honestly, saving my baby saved my life, because there's no way I would be here had I done that. I was completely against it. Even when I ever heard of abortion earlier in my life, when I was, a teenager. So the people in the pro-life movement are the lovers of people. And we are the ones who have to reach out to those so lost because they don't know we exist. They don't know. They don't know we exist. When I was growing up, everyone took care of me out of a sense of duty. My mom, bless her heart, she did her best. I know she did. But she was just as lost. You know, she was traumatized from the brutal time that she was with my biological father. And she just didn't even know. I really believe she did not know that when she sent us back to my paternal grandmother's house, that he would have access to us and that we also would be abused. And so when I was a kid, it was, you're only taking care of me because you're a school teacher, or, you know, you're an aunt or an uncle. You must. It's your duty. It was always out of a sense of duty. I never knew that there were people who would love a kid like me who's a wreck and disobedient and obnoxious and arrogant and spouting all kinds of, you know, profanities or whatever. I didn't know that people like you existed. And so I know that a lot of people don't know that. A lot of kids don't know that. And many of them are online today. And with chatbots and all the very dangerous people, not just chatbots, but people. I mean, there are so many villains online preying on these young kids. And for you to be out there online like this on a podcast, or you mentioned various social media that you're on, that's wonderful. What a great thing that you're doing to reach all these young people and let them know there are people who genuinely care about you, whether you think you can be seen or whether you think that you can be heard. There are people who really, really care. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. I guess my question for you would be like, what would be, if anyone is listening today that's in a situation, an abusive situation like that, like what would be your best piece of advice of where to start, who to reach out to? Would you recommend that they reach out to a pregnancy center, or is there like a specific like hotline or something like that that you would recommend they reach out to?
So right now, the human trafficking hotline is kind of in flux. I don't know that I would recommend that. But as far as pregnancy care centers, absolutely. They are the people who care about you. The issue is that their main goal is to provide for pregnant women and their children, right? And that's their main goal. But that doesn't mean they don't have resources for you. So they might refer you to somebody else, but it will be a warm handoff in most cases. And I say that knowing that I have dealt with a lot of pregnancy resource centers, a lot of pregnancy care centers that understand trafficking, that have had trafficking education, and that are really understanding the link, because traffickers love abortion. They love abortion. It is a way to free up their potential profits, basically. And there are of course predators who prey on pregnant women, and that is something that they want. But most of the time, a trafficker wants their victims to be free to have sex without being pregnant, which is very, very tragic. But as far as where to reach out to, in this venue where we're talking about pregnancy care centers, and I don't know how far this podcast is going to reach either. So are we talking about in, you know, Texas and Washington State? Are we talking about Washington, D.C.? That to me would still probably be my first resource, but there are a lot of churches that are also able to direct people to resources. The problem is that trust is so easily broken, especially in churches, because people are people and we're all fallible. Every one of us. Even if we have the love of God in us, we can miss it. We can miss that person reaching out. And we can not understand what's going on. And we can sometimes, I hate to say it, but turn a cold shoulder. So the biggest thing is to keep trying, keep reaching, keep looking for that out, keep searching. I was in and out of foster care. I was arrested numerous times. There were people who tried to reach me, and I didn't want to be reached. But there were other times when I wanted help, and I would hit a roadblock, or, it was a person who ended up taking advantage of me or whatever. I actually was walking the streets, and I saw somebody that I had recognized and asked for a place to stay, and they ended up taking advantage of me. That happens. It's just going to be a common thing in this terrible, terrible world. But keep trying. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. One website I think of, just for people if they want to know how to reach out to a pregnancy resource center. Students for Life of America runs a website called standingwithyou.org. And you can go on that website and type in your zip code wherever you are in the country, and life-affirming pregnancy care centers will populate.
Wonderful.
So that's a great resource if anyone is in need, standingwithyou.org.
Mm-hmm. Darlene, how have you seen the goodness of God in your life?
Oh my gosh. So I met my husband after I had my daughter, and that's a whole story that we don't really have time for, but it's so fun and so interesting. And he was the kindest man I ever met. And I didn't even know how kind he was. He was so kind. And I look back and think of how crazy I was, and he still stood by me. And we were a little bit on again, off again, and I ended up, like I said, this is a long story, so I won't go into it too much more, but I ended up with another child before we ended up getting married. And we had 3 since. So we have 5 children together. We've been married for 35 years. And he had a traumatic brain injury about 5.5 years ago now. And he's still, even though he's quite different and he has had a really, really bad time, he's still my husband. And I'm so grateful to God that he kept us together. And our children are, all in touch. And well, except my daughter in Asheville, she's a little bit distant, but she's always been a little bit distant. So God has been so, so good in so many ways with my children. And I now have 7 grandchildren, and I get to take care of the little ones very often, every week. And I take care of my husband. And so my life has shifted quite a bit from public speaking and going out and doing all the conferences and stuff to being very private speaking and talking to the children about God and about his love and about how we are uniquely loved by God, each and every one of us. And every single one of us has a specific purpose. Every single one of us. Nobody is lost in the midst of everything and has no purpose. We each have a purpose, and it's unique to each of us. Even when we can't see it, even when we can't find it, and even when we feel like our world is in chaos, God is there with us, and he loves us, and he made us so he can help us through. All we really have to do is continue to talk with him, and it's really hard sometimes to settle ourselves down, but we can, and he does help us to do that. My healing came very, very slowly. It's still happening now. I still have a hard time sometimes, especially when I look back over the chaos that I brought to the world, because I wasn't just a subject of chaos. I also brought a lot of chaos, right? So there's that. But God is so gracious and so good. My husband has a really good job, and so I've been able to support the home that took me in every month. And I actually have a couple of other homes and trafficking ministries that I support every month. And that, even though I'm not out there speaking and raising money for different organizations, that really blesses my heart. That blesses my heart more than I can express, really. That is part of my life still. Even though I'm not out there raising funds for people, that I'm able to support them and prayerfully giving every month. That's just to be a conduit of His love and grace is just the most wonderful privilege that I could imagine.
Wow.
Wow. It's beautiful how God, took your story and turned it into something really beautiful. It's just amazing. I actually yesterday spoke with a woman who just converted to Christianity this year, and she had had 2 prior abortions. And then, but one of the abortions actually wound up not working, and her daughter was actually born. She actually had her daughter, so it was really, really, really beautiful. And she when that happened, she she believed that was God's hand and on her daughter's life, and
Awesome.
she converted to Christianity. So she's kind of in the beginning of that stage with that. So yeah, just really beautiful how God has used your life and for good. And I know we're kind of getting to the end of time, but I did want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the importance of parental consent laws when it comes to abortion? Because, in many states, children who are, under the age of consent, right, they don't necessarily need parental permission to have an abortion. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And yeah, if you think that those laws are important.
Absolutely. I think the underhanded way that the devil works in the abortion industry is very much through targeting young people. The lies and the propaganda, the right to choose, all of the different ways that the enemy of our souls, because he's the destroyer, he's behind it all. He has taken the gracious blood sacrifice that Jesus provided for us so that we can go to heaven, and he's twisted it into something that we should shed other blood, that we should shed the blood of children before they even have a chance. And as I said, every single one of us is uniquely created with a purpose on earth, and it is the enemy of our souls. It is the devil who would try to kill that child beforehand. And I'm not saying that the parents, the mothers, or even the fathers who pressure the mothers are the devil. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's the enemy of our souls that convinces us that abortion is something we should want to do. And as far as the schools and the teachers, I believe they're all blinded by the devil. I don't think they're the devil either. Don't get me wrong here. It is an evil beyond evil to take the blood sacrifice that Jesus provided for us to be able to be with God forever, and to twist it into this demonic, horrific child sacrifice that we're seeing these days. And as far as parental consent, I think parents need to consent to their children's well-being until they're out, completely out from under their roof. And I know that consent to sex in a lot of states is 16, but they're still living at home most of the time. Then they should still be involved in that situation. The trauma that comes from abortion so many times. I have so many friends who have had abortions, who've been pressured into abortion. As I said, it is a trafficker's best friend, really, in a lot of cases. And so I know a lot of trafficking survivors who have had abortions, and the trauma is horrendous. And they need their parents to help them through if they have gone through abortion. It's just super, super important. And most of the time, parents are not going to allow that to happen. They're going to help them through the pregnancy instead, and help their grandchildren to live and to manifest the divine purpose that God has for their lives.
Yeah. Darlene, do you have a Bible verse that in particular that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I actually don't remember the reference, but it's in Proverbs, and it is, as iron sharpens iron, so the countenance of a man sharpens that of his friend. And the reason I chose that for today I forgot to look up the actual reference. I used to know it by heart, but I think it's Proverbs 17 or some 22:17 or something. Is that you are showing not just the love of God in your podcast and in your ministry, but also the love of humanity. And so you make the cross when you do that. You have the love of God is the up and down, and then the love of humanity is this horizontal, where you love the people around you. And that scripture verse to me is so important, because it is each of us not just rubbing the rough edges off each other, but also lifting each other up and being there to support one another when we fall or when we're failing. And you guys are just such an example of that love. It's just so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Darlene.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I looked it up, by the way. It's Proverbs 27:17.
27:17.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you were close.
Awesome.
But
Well, everybody, if you want to come see Darlene and hear more of God's story in her life and support the work of New Hampshire Right to Life, please come to our annual banquet on October 16th. Tickets are at nhrtl.org just nhrtl.org. You can find it. And we'll see you then, Darlene. Thank you so much for
thank you for coming on the show, Darlene.
coming today.
Looking forward to it.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, goodbye, everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Ever Living Podcast, a podcast by New Hampshire Right to Life, New Hampshire's oldest and most active pro-life organization. You can learn more about our work and learn how to get involved at www.nhrtl.org. If you would like to donate to our mission, you can make a donation at www.nhrtl.org/donate. See you next week. May God bless you and be very near to you, and may you be ever living.